The morning started just like any other Tuesday. Eli Shaw woke up at 7, made 2 cups of coffee, set one on the kitchen counter for his fiancée, Daniel, and opened the curtains to let the pale winter sun in. He had been doing this for 3 years. 2 cups every morning. It was the small thing that made him feel like life was going right. He did not know that by evening, life would go completely wrong. The doctor's office smelled like hand sanitizer and quiet fear. Eli had gone alone because Daniel had a work call he could not miss. That was fine. Eli told himself it was fine. It was just a follow-up. The headaches had been getting worse, but headaches were not dangerous, right? Dr. Park sat across from him and did not smile when Eli walked in. That was the first sign. Ellie, Dr. Park said, folding his hands on the desk. We got your MRI results back. Eli nodded. He was still thinking about whether Daniel would want pasta or rice for dinner tonight. You have a condition called glioblastoma multiforme. It is a type of brain tumor. Dr. Park paused. It is in stage 4. It is aggressive. The room went very quiet. Eli blinked. Okay, he said, because his brain did not have any better word. We can discuss treatment options. There are things we can try, chemotherapy, radiation. But I want to be honest with you, Eli. At this stage, we are talking about extending quality of life, not a cure. How long? Eli asked. His voice came out calm, which surprised him. Dr. Park looked at his hands. With treatment, perhaps 12 to 18 months. Without, less. Eli walked out of that office into the cold evening air. He stood on the pavement outside. People walked past him, talking on phones, carrying bags, laughing. The city moved around him like he was a stone in a river. He had 1 year, maybe a little more, maybe less. He called Daniel on the way home. Hey, babe. How was the appointment? Eli sat down on a bench in the middle of the street. An old man nearby was feeding pigeons. The pigeons were fat and happy and did not know anything about glioblastoma. It was bad, Eli said. Daniel, it was really bad. I need to tell you something. He told him everything. Every word the doctor said. He told it the way you rip off a bandage. Fast, all at once. There was a long silence on the other end. Daniel, I need some time to process this, Daniel said. His voice was strange, flat, like something had gone out of it. Of course. We can talk when you get home. I won't be coming home tonight. I'm going to stay at my brother's place. Eli stared at the pigeons. Okay, tomorrow then. Yeah, tomorrow. But Daniel did not come tomorrow. He came 3 days later, while Eli was sitting on the sofa, watching a cooking show and eating cereal, because cooking felt like too much effort. Daniel stood in the doorway with a bag already packed, which meant he had been planning this since before he walked through the door. Eli muted the television. I can't do this, Daniel said. He did not look at Eli directly. He looked slightly to the left of him, like Eli was a bright light that hurt to see. I'm sorry, Eli. I am. But I can't watch someone I love go through that. I can't do it. It will destroy me. Eli looked at him for a long moment. It will destroy you, Eli repeated, slowly. I know that sounds selfish. It does, Eli said. Quiet, no anger yet. Just the truth, plain and clean. I'm sorry. Daniel put his key on the table and left. Eli sat there for a while. The cooking show continued without sound. Someone was making a cake. It looked like a good cake. 3 layers, with cream between them. He turned off the TV and went to lie on the bed. He pulled the blanket over himself, even though he was not cold. He lay there in the quiet for a very long time. He did not cry. Not yet. The tears were still somewhere behind his chest, waiting. He did not know that right now. From the apartment building across the street, someone was watching his window. Someone who had been watching for 6 months. Someone who noticed when the lights went out too early. Someone who noticed when Eli came home from that doctor's visit, walking too slow, like his legs had forgotten how to carry him properly. A man stood at the tall glass window of the penthouse across the street. Dark hair, sharp eyes, a jaw that could cut glass. His name was Ryan Castell. He held a glass of water in one hand and watched the light in Eli's apartment go dark. His expression did not change, but his hand tightened on the glass. Marco, he said without turning around. A man behind him straightened. Yes, boss? Find out everything about the man in 4C across the street. A pause, and be quick about it. Eli's alarm went off at 7. He lay there and looked at the ceiling for 4 full minutes before he turned it off. For 1 second, he forgot. The way you sometimes forget, right when you first wake up, before the world loads back into your brain. One beautiful, empty second. Then it all came back. The tumor, Daniel, the key on the table, the cake on the muted television. He got up anyway. He did not know what else to do. He made one cup of coffee. Just one. He stood in the kitchen holding it and looking at the empty spot on the counter where Daniel's cup used to go. He was not going to cry about a spot on a counter. That was too small a thing to cry about. But somehow the small things were the sharpest. He drank his coffee. He showered. He put on actual clothes instead of staying in pajamas, which he considered a personal victory. He had nowhere to be, but he was not going to let himself become a person who did not get dressed. Not yet. He decided to go for a walk. The building Eli lived in was nice but not fancy. It was a 10-floor building in the middle of the city, with a dry cleaner on the ground floor and a small cafe 2 doors down. Eli had lived there for 5 years. He knew the woman at the front desk, Mrs. Cho, who always complained about the elevator being slow. He knew the teenager on the second floor who practiced guitar too loud. He knew the life of this building. What he did not know was what had moved into the penthouse, 3 floors above the building, across the street. He found out by accident. He was walking back from the small park nearby, hands in his jacket pockets, when a large black car pulled up in front of the building opposite his. 3 men got out first, moving in a way that was not normal. Heads turning, eyes scanning, like bodyguards, like people who were paid to be careful. Then a fourth man stepped out. Eli stopped walking. The man was tall. He wore a dark coat that looked expensive without trying to look expensive. He had dark hair, a little too long on top, and the kind of face that made you look twice, not because it was pretty, but because it was serious, in a way that real faces rarely are. He moved with no hurry at all, like the world around him was expected to wait. One of his men said something. The man glanced across the street, and his eyes landed on Eli. Eli blinked. He realized he had been standing there staring like an absolute fool. He looked away and kept walking. Fast. His heart was doing something strange. Probably just the cold air. He did not think about the man again. He had bigger things to think about. He spent the afternoon calling the hospital to set up a consultation about treatment. The receptionist was kind. She used the gentle, careful voice that people use with sick people, and Eli found it both comforting and quietly terrible. He scheduled an appointment for the following week. He wrote it in his phone calendar and then sat looking at it. A calendar entry about choosing how to die slowly. He closed his phone. He ordered takeout that evening from the little noodle place around the corner. He ate it at the window, watching the street below. The city was loud and alive and completely indifferent to him. He did not mind that. He found it a little comforting, actually. He noticed the penthouse light across the street was on. He wondered vaguely who lived there. Probably some rich business person who was never home. The city was full of those. A knock came at his door. Eli frowned. He was not expecting anyone. He got up and opened the door. It was Mrs. Cho from the front desk, holding a paper bag. She looked flustered. "Ellie dear," she said, "I am very sorry to bother you. But the gentleman in the penthouse across the way, he sent this over." She held out the bag. His assistant came to the desk, said it was for the man in 4C. Eli stared at the bag, then at her, then at the bag again. "For me?" That is what he said. Eli took the bag slowly. He opened it. Inside was a container of soup. Proper soup, not the powdered kind. From a restaurant that Eli recognized. A very expensive restaurant. The kind where you needed a reservation 6 weeks in advance. There was a small card, no signature. It said, "You did not eat enough today." Eli looked up and across the street at the lit penthouse window. A figure stood there, still, watching. Eli's face went warm. He closed the door, sat back down at his window, and looked at the soup. "What is happening?" he said to nobody. He ate the soup. It was, without question, the best soup he had ever had in his life. He looked at the card again. "You did not eat enough today." How would someone across the street know how much he ate? He looked at the penthouse window again. The figure was gone. Eli pressed the little card to his chest, unsure if he was charmed or alarmed. Possibly both. The soup became a pattern, not every day, but often enough that Eli started to notice. A bag of fruit left at the front desk on a Monday. A box of medicine, the exact kind he had been prescribed, already filled and waiting for him at Mrs. Cho's desk on Wednesday. Once, after a particularly bad headache that had left him on the sofa, unable to move, he opened his door to find a cold pack and a bottle of water sitting outside it. He had not called anyone. He had not told anyone. He stood there in the hallway, holding the cold pack, and said, quite loudly, "This is deeply concerning." But he used the cold pack. He tried to find out who Ryan Castell was using the internet the way anyone would. What he found made him go very still. Ryan Castell, 31 years old, head of the Castell Group, a conglomerate with businesses in real estate, shipping, private security, and, if the darker corners of the internet were to be believed, considerably less legal things. He came from a family that had run significant portions of the city's underworld for 2 generations. He had taken over from his father at 24 after his father died, under circumstances that were officially listed as natural causes and unofficially whispered about in very quiet voices. He was, in short, not a person you accepted soup from without asking questions. Eli decided he was going to ask questions. He put on a decent jacket. He fixed his hair. He told himself he was just going to return the containers and firmly tell whoever answered the door that he did not need help, thank you, and he would appreciate it if they stopped watching him. He walked across the street, went into the building, and stood at the front desk. The man behind the desk looked at him with the blank, polished calm of someone who dealt with unusual situations routinely. "I'm here to see the person in the penthouse," Eli said. A pause. "Do you have an appointment?" "No." "Tell him it's the man from 4C. Another pause. The man made a short call. Then he looked back at Eli with slight surprise, as if this was not the response he had expected. "He'll see you. Top floor." The elevator was silent and fast. When the doors opened, Eli was standing in a hallway that was almost aggressively understated. Dark wood, low light, no decoration, except one painting that Eli was fairly certain was very old and very valuable. A door at the end was open. Eli walked through it. Ryan Castell was standing by the window, exactly where Eli had seen him from across the street. Up close, he was even more difficult to look at. Not beautiful in a soft way, beautiful in a hard carved way, like something made to last. He turned when Eli entered. He did not look surprised. He looked like a man who had been waiting for something he already knew was coming. "You came," Ryan said. His voice was low and even. "You've been sending me things," Eli said. He held up the bag of returned containers. "I'm bringing these back, and I need you to stop." Ryan looked at the containers. "Why?" "Because I don't know you. Because it's strange. Because—" Eli stopped. He had prepared more reasons, but they had gotten lost somewhere. "Why are you doing it?" Ryan was quiet for a moment. "You looked like you needed someone too," he said. Simple. Direct. Eli blinked. "That is not a normal thing to say," Eli told him. "Probably not." Ryan moved away from the window and gestured to the sitting area. "Sit down." "I'm not staying." "You walked across the street and came up 17 floors to return soup containers. You are staying." Something in his voice was not quite an order, more like a statement of what was going to happen. Eli sat down. He was not sure why. They sat across from each other. Ryan poured tea without asking if Eli wanted it and set it in front of him. Eli looked at the tea, then he looked up. "How do you know how much I eat?" Ryan met his gaze steadily. "I pay attention. That is also not a normal thing to say." "You keep saying things are not normal." "Because they're not," Eli said. He wrapped his hands around the teacup. It was warm. "You know who I am. You know I'm sick." Ryan's expression did not change, but something in his eyes did. Something quiet moved through them and settled. "Yes," he said. "I know. Then why bother? Most people run." Eli said it like a fact, not a wound. "My fiancé ran. My fiancé ran and he loved me. You don't know me. Why are you sending soup?" Ryan looked at him for a long time. "Because some people run," he said, "and some people don't." The room was very quiet. Eli looked down at his tea. His chest hurt in a way that had nothing to do with his diagnosis. "I don't want your pity," Eli said. "Good," Ryan said. "Because I don't do pity." Eli looked up. Rin's eyes were serious and direct and absolutely not pitying. They were something else. Something Eli did not have a name for yet. "Then what do you call this?" Eli asked. Ryan was quiet for one more beat. "The beginning," he said. Eli did not go home that night. He meant to. He finished the tea, set the cup down, said something polite and distant, and stood up to leave. He got all the way to the hallway before Rin said, "Your next hospital appointment is next Tuesday at 2. Eli froze. He turned around slowly. How do you know that? Ryan leaned against the doorframe. He had rolled up one sleeve of his shirt. He looked very casual for a man who had just said something very alarming. I make it my business to know things. Eli stared at him. That is a violation of. I didn't access your medical files, Ryan said. You made a phone call near an open window. My people are observant. Eli stood there processing this. Your people were listening to my phone calls near my window. We heard, not listened. Is that supposed to be a meaningful difference? Ryan almost smiled. It was a very small almost smile, but it was there. Come to the appointment. I'll take you. You were going to take a bus. A bus is fine, in the rain, with a migraine. Ryan raised one eyebrow, very slightly. You had one this morning. Eli opened his mouth, closed it. He had had a migraine this morning. A bad one. He had taken his medication and sat in the dark for an hour. You are the most unsettling person I have ever met, Eli said. Probably, Ryan agreed. Eli stood in the hallway and thought about the bus and the rain and sitting in that waiting room alone again. Fine, he said, you can take me. But this is not a thing. This is just a ride. Of course, said Ryan. He did not look like a man who thought it was just a ride. Tuesday came. A car was waiting outside Eli's building at 1:30. Not the large black car from before, something smaller, less obvious. Ryan was already inside. Eli got in and did not say good morning. Ryan did not require it. They drove in silence for a while. The kind of silence that was not uncomfortable, which Eli found slightly annoying because it should have been uncomfortable. Are you scared? Ryan asked, without looking at him. Eli watched the city go past the window. Yes, he said, because lying seemed pointless. But not in the way you'd think. I'm not scared of dying exactly. I'm more scared of it being slow, of becoming smaller, of losing things one at a time. He stopped. He had not meant to say that much. Ryan said nothing for a moment. Then, that makes sense. Eli glanced at him. Most people say something comforting, like you'll be fine or stay positive. Would you prefer that? Eli thought about it. No, he admitted. Actually, no. The hospital was the hospital. It smelled like hand sanitizer and quiet fear, exactly as it had the first time. The doctor discussed options, treatment plans, timelines, side effects. Eli listened and took notes on his phone and asked sensible questions because falling apart in a doctor's office was not going to help anything. Ryan sat beside him the whole time. He did not offer false reassurance. He did not make it about himself. He sat there like a wall, solid and present, and asking one or two quiet, sharp questions that Eli had not thought to ask. Questions about treatment access, about second opinions, about clinical trials. When they walked out, Eli stopped on the pavement outside. You read about this, Eli said. Before we came. You researched it. Ryan looked at him. Yes. Eli felt something move in his chest. He looked away quickly. Why? He asked. His voice was quieter this time. Because you deserved to walk into that room with someone who knew what was being talked about, Ryan said. Not someone who sat there confused and useless. Eli stared at the traffic. He was not going to cry on a pavement in front of a mafia boss. He was absolutely not going to do that. He managed not to. Barely. I think, Eli said carefully, that you are a very strange man. I've been told. I also think, Eli continued, still not looking at him, that maybe it would be okay if you brought soup sometimes. Not always. Just sometimes. There was a pause. I can do sometimes, Ryan said. And standing on that cold pavement outside a hospital, Eli Shaw felt for the first time since the world stopped something small and warm start up in his chest. He was not sure what it was yet, but it was there. 3 weeks passed. In those 3 weeks, something shifted. Not dramatically, not in a way Eli could point to easily, but shifted the way the seasons shift. Gradually, and then all at once. Ryan started taking him to his treatment sessions. Eli started stopping by the penthouse for tea. It was, by any measurement, a strange arrangement. They were not friends exactly. They were something without a clear name. Eli learned things about Ryan in small pieces, because Ryan was not a person who gave information freely. He learned that Ryan drank his coffee with no sugar and no milk, which Eli found almost personally offensive. He learned that Rin had one sister, Nadia, who lived abroad and called every Sunday and was apparently the only person in the world Rin laughed with fully. He learned that Rin's work was dangerous in ways that were never described directly but present in every careful movement. Every quiet bodyguard, every late night call that made Reen's face go still and serious. He also learned that Ryan had been watching him for 6 months. He found out by accident. He was sitting on Ryan's sofa going through the research Ryan had printed for him about clinical trials when he knocked a folder off the side table. Papers slid out. He picked them up and froze. They were photos of him, taken from a distance over several months, getting coffee, walking in the park, sitting on his bench feeding the birds the way the old man used to, coming home with groceries. They were not creepy photos. There was nothing sinister in the angles, nothing voyeuristic. But they were proof of attention that went back far further than 3 weeks. He heard Ryan come into the room. 6 months? Eli said. He held up one of the photos. Ryan went still. You have been watching me for 6 months, Eli said. He was not shouting. His voice was very even, which in some ways was worse. Before the diagnosis, before Daniel left, you were watching me for 6 months before any of this happened. Ryan crossed the room and sat down in the chair across from him. He looked at the photos and then at Eli. Yes, he said. No excuse. No explanation offered first. Why? A pause. Ryan looked at him with those dark, serious eyes. I saw you one morning, Ryan said. From this window, you were in your kitchen. You made 2 cups of coffee, and you stood there, and you looked at the second cup for a moment before you put it out. Like you were deciding something. And then you smiled at nothing. He paused. I have never seen anyone smile at nothing like that. Like they were completely okay with being exactly where they were. Eli stared at him. That is why, Ryan said. I saw you and I thought, that person is something. I wanted to know what. The room was very quiet. Eli looked down at the photo in his hands, him on a bench in the park, head tilted up toward pale winter sun. That's not a normal reason to watch someone for 6 months, Eli said. I know. It is also, Eli added slower, the most honest thing anyone has ever said to me. Ryan said nothing. He waited. Eli set the photo down. He looked at Ryan across the small space between them. I should probably be more upset about this, Eli said. Probably, Ryan agreed. I'm working on it. Something passed through Ryan's expression. Not quite a smile, but close. Take your time, he said. That evening, Eli sat at his own window with his 1 cup of coffee. He looked across at the penthouse. The light was on. He could see Ryan's outline at the window, the same as always. But this time, Eli lifted his cup in a small, deliberate salute. Across the street, a hand rose in return. Everything was going too well. Eli had started to notice that when things were going well, it meant something was waiting around the corner. He had become suspicious of peace. He was right to be. It started with a man outside his building. Eli noticed him on a Thursday. He was standing near the dry cleaner on the ground floor, doing nothing in particular. Average build, average coat, average face. But he was there when Eli left in the morning, and there when Eli came home. And the next day, and the next. Eli mentioned it to Ryan on Friday evening. Reen's expression did not change, but he set down his cup with a careful, controlled movement that told Eli something was wrong. Go to the kitchen, Reen said. What? Please. The word was quiet but urgent. Eli went to the kitchen. He could hear Ryan on the phone, voice low and quick. After a few minutes, Ryan came in. He stood in the kitchen doorway looking at Eli with an expression that was new, careful, and something close to worried. He's not mine, Reen said. Eli felt his stomach drop. Then who? A man named Voss. He runs operations in the east of the city. We have had conflict with his organization for 2 years. Ryan paused. He knows about you. About me. Eli said it flat. Why would someone like that know about me? Because you have been seen with me. Multiple times. In public. Ryan's jaw was tight. He is trying to fight leverage. Eli sat down on a kitchen stool. He pressed his hands together in his lap and thought about this. So, because you were kind to a dying person, Eli said, that person is now a target for your enemies. Ellie, that is what happened. That is the actual situation. Ryan crossed the room and crouched down in front of Eli, so they were at eye level. It was the closest they had been physically, and it was startling in a way Eli was not prepared for. I am not going to let anything happen to you, Ryan said. Low, direct, absolute. I know, Eli said, quietly. And the strange thing was, he did know. He believed it completely, which should have alarmed him and somehow did not. But Ryan, I'm already dying. What is he going to threaten me with? Something crossed Ryan's face. Pain. Real, visible pain. Don't say that, Rin said. The words came out rough. Eli looked at him. Why not? It's true. Because I don't accept it. Ryan's voice was careful, like he was choosing every word. I have been in contact with a research facility in Germany. They are running a trial for your condition. It is early stage, but the results are Rin. Eli put his hand on Rin's arm. Just lightly. You can't fix this. I know. A pause. I'm going to try anyway. They looked at each other for a long moment. Then something happened that neither of them planned. Eli leaned forward and pressed his forehead against Ryan's. Just that. Foreheads touching, eyes closed. Ryan went completely still, like an animal that was afraid to move in case it scared something away. They stayed like that for a while. In the kitchen, in the quiet. Thank you, Eli said, very soft. Ryan's hand came up and held the back of Eli's head, gentle and careful, like he was holding something he was terrified of breaking. Don't thank me, Ryan said. Just let me. Voss made his move on a rainy Thursday night. It was not violence, it was worse, it was a video. Eli got a message from an unknown number at 11 at night. It was a short video clip, taken from what looked like a security camera, inside a hospital, a doctor at a desk, and someone who Eli did not recognize immediately, but then, with a sick lurch, did. It was Daniel, his ex-fiancé, the one who left. In the video, Daniel was talking to a man in a dark coat. Voss, Eli would later understand, and handing him an envelope. Documents. Eli's medical documents, his address, his schedule. Daniel's face was clear in the video. Below the video, a message. Your ex sold you, and your new friend has a secret of his own. Ask him what happened to the last person he was close to. Eli sat with his phone in both hands for a very long time. He went to Ryan's the next morning. He did not call first. He knocked on the door, and Marco let him in with one look at his face and disappeared quietly. Ryan came out of his office and stopped and saw when he saw Eli. Someone sent me a video of Daniel, Eli said. He showed Reen the phone. He watched Reen's face as he watched the clip. Reen's jaw tightened. Voss, Reen said. Yes. Eli took his phone back. The message said you have a secret. About the last person who was close to you. He looked at Ryan directly. I want to hear it from you. Ryan was quiet for a long moment. Then he walked to the window, his thinking place Eli had learned, and stood there. His name was Sol, Ryan said. He was my partner. 5 years ago, he was a civilian, a musician, a pause. He was threatened because of who I am, because of my work. My enemies used him to get to me. Eli waited. He was hurt, Ryan said. The words were flat, but the control it took to make them flat was visible. Not killed, but hurt badly. He left after. He was right to. Another pause. I swore after Saul that I would not let anyone close again, that I would not put a civilian in my orbit. He turned to look at Eli. And then I saw a man in a kitchens, smiling at nothing, Ryan said. And I was not strong enough to stay away. Eli crossed the room. He stopped in front of Ryan. You should have told me, Eli said. Yes, I am angry that you didn't. I know. Eli looked at him. But I also understand why you didn't. A beat. And I need you to understand something. I am not Saul. I am not unaware of what your life is. I walked into this knowing what you are. I stayed knowing what you are. He took a breath. And I have maybe 1 year, possibly less. I am not spending it safe and alone and sensible. Ryan's expression broke. Just for a second. Just at the edges. Ellie, I am spending it, Eli continued. Being recklessly and completely present, which means if you want to be in my life, you are in it. All of it. Not from across the street. In it. Ryan reached out and took Eli's face in both hands. He did not kiss him. He just held his face and looked at him, like someone memorizing something they were afraid to lose. The German trial, Ryan said. I spoke to them yesterday. They have a slot. Your profile fits perfectly. There are no guarantees, but Eli. Tell me the odds, Eli said. 30% for significant regression. 15 for full remission. Eli laughed. It came out wet and not fully in control. Those are terrible odds. They are better than 12 months. Eli put his hands over Ryan's hands, which were still holding his face. Okay, Eli said. Okay, let's do terrible odds. And Ryan pressed his forehead to Eli's, the same way Eli had done in the kitchen, and held on. 6 months later, the rain was light. Eli sat at the window of Ryan's penthouse with a cup of tea. Ryan's tea, because Ryan had quietly replaced Eli's instant brand with something far superior without being asked. He watched the street below, the dry cleaner, the little cafe, his old building, 4C, which now had new curtains. Someone else lived there. He lived here now. It had not been a conversation exactly. It had been a Tuesday, when Ryan had come home from a very long meeting, looking exhausted, and found Eli already there, having made dinner, and had simply sat down and eaten without asking how Eli had gotten in. And after that, neither of them brought up Eli having his own key. The trial in Germany had been hard. 6 weeks in a clinic that smelled like clean floors and cautious hope. Treatments that left Eli tired in ways he had not known tired could feel. Ryan had flown over on weekends. He had sat beside the bed and read to Eli out loud from a history book that Eli had picked specifically because it was boring enough to fall asleep to. Ryan had read every single in his low, even voice, not minding that Eli was asleep for most of it. There had been bad days. Days when Eli was scared and small, and the tumor felt like a presence rather than a medical fact. There had been a night when Eli woke up crying, without knowing why, and Ryan had been there, awake, without question, just there. There had been a day, a specific Gold Tuesday in the clinic cafeteria, when the doctor had come in and shown them a scan, and told them the tumor had shrunk significantly. Not gone, not fully, but shrunk, dramatically, beyond projections. Ryan had put his head down on the cafeteria table, which was the most visible thing Eli had ever seen him do. Eli had rubbed circles on his back and not said anything because there was nothing to say. Now, 6 months after Germany, sitting at the window with tea, Eli heard Ryan come into the room behind him. Your scan is next week, Ryan said. I know. Eli did not look away from the window. How are you feeling? Eli considered this. He had a headache, low level, which was normal now and not the alarming kind. He was tired. He was also, genuinely and in a way he had not expected, happy. Not the performing happiness kind, the quiet, actual kind. Good, he said. I feel good. He heard Ryan come to stand behind him. Hands settled on his shoulders. Eli leaned back against him. Daniel sent a message last week, Eli said. I know, said Reen. Of course he knew. I didn't open it. A pause. How do you feel about that? Eli thought about it. Fine. I feel fine about it. He looked at the street. I wasted a lot of energy being angry at him, but he taught me something. He showed me what fear looks like when it makes choices, and I decided I was not going to let fear make mine. Ryan's hands tightened on his shoulders slightly. There is something I want to say, Rin said. Eli turned to look up at him. That is not your usual opening. I am practicing. Something in Ryan's expression was doing an unusual thing. Soft. Uncertain. On Ryan Castell, uncertainty was remarkable. I have not been good at this. Any of this. People. Saying things. He stopped. You're doing fine, Eli said, gently. I want. Ryan tried again. I would like, if you are willing, for this to not have an end point. I know the situation is not simple. I know my life is not simple, but I want. He stopped again. Eli stood up. He took Ryan's face in his hands, exactly the way Ryan had held his face in that living room 6 months ago. Ryan, he said, I am already here. I am already staying. You don't have to find the sentence. Ryan closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were very close. I love you, Ryan said. Plain, quiet, like a fact. I know, Eli said. I love you too, a small smile. I have for a while. How long? The soup, Eli said. Honestly, it was the soup. Ryan made a sound that was incredibly a laugh, a real one. The kind Eli usually only heard on Sunday phone calls with Nadia. Eli kissed him, brief and warm and complete. Outside, the rain was stopping. On the street below, the city went on, loud, alive, indifferent. But here, in the light of this penthouse window, two people stood together with their foreheads touching, and the future still uncertain, and the present. Absolutely, entirely enough. And somewhere in a kitchen of a memory, a man smiled at his two coffee cups, and then made a new choice.